Welcome, dear readers, to the Midnight Hour, where shadows stretch long and choices weigh heavy. Did you miss me? I've been wandering far and wide, gathering the most macabre and chilling tales to share with you. The clock strikes 12, and the veil between what is seen and what is hidden grows thin. Did you feel it? The chill in the air, the prickling at the nape of your neck? That's just the first sign. You're not alone. Not anymore. This season, the tales twist darker, and the horrors sink deeper. I invite you to follow me through a world fraught with shadows that breathe, whispers that linger, and choices that bind tighter than chains. A midnight phone call that echoes from beneath the grave, to the woods where the trees aren't the only things that have roots, or the family who dared to move into the house on Hollow Creek Road, where the walls remember what they cannot. And now I give you the Midnight Train. Shall we begin? Ethan Rourke hadn't planned on drinking tonight, not at first. He hadn't even planned on thinking about her. But then the letter came.
Dear Ethan, I hope this letter finds you well. I've tried to write to you so many times before, but I could never find the courage. I loved you before I even knew what love was, and for so long I thought my heart would ache forever. But in my darkest moments, a wonderful man came into my life and helped piece my shattered heart back together. His name is Alexander. I love him, Ethan, and he loves me. We are to be married in the spring. Still, a part of me cannot move forward until I've addressed my past. I hope you too will find the kind of love and peace that I've finally discovered. Please know that I truly mean that. This will be my last letter, as I must let go and move on, for my own peace of mind. Find a way to go on, Ethan. What we shared was never in vain. It was a lesson, a part of the journey we both had to take. For that, I will always be grateful to you. But my journey leads me down a different path now. Goodbye, Ethan.
A simple white envelope sitting innocuously in his mailbox, its contents stark and final. She was marrying someone else, someone who wasn't him. His eyes lingered on the neatly written words, each one carving a deeper ache into his chest. He read it again as if the pain might lessen with repetition, but it didn't.
Emma, how did I mess up so badly?
He whispered, her name carrying the weight of memories he'd tried so hard to bury. He ran a hand through his hair, staring at the wall as his mind flooded with images of her. Her laughter, the way she'd look at him when the world seemed to disappear around them. He'd been her first love, just as she'd been his, and now she was someone else's future. Suddenly, the roar of an engine pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. A car hurtled toward him, its headlights blinding, its horn a sudden, jarring scream. Ethan froze. His limbs felt leaden, his body too slow to move. The car swerved, tires screeching as it barely missed him. He stumbled backward onto the sidewalk, gasping for air, his pulse hammering in his chest. For a moment, he just stood there, clutching the lamppost beside him as he tried to steady himself. Then he saw it, the train station. It stood pristine and sharp against the dark sky, its softly glowing windows illuminating the platform in pale, eerie light. Ethan frowned. He couldn't remember the last time he'd noticed anyone using this station. Maybe it wasn't abandoned, but it was forgotten. A relic of quieter times. Yet tonight it was alive. Pale light spilled from its open doors, casting long shadows across the polished platform. A faint whistle echoed in the distance, low and mournful, sending a shiver down his spine. A strange pull tugged at his chest, drawing him forward despite the unease curling in his stomach. Against his better judgment, or maybe because of it, he crossed the street. Inside, the station was eerily empty. It was pristine, untouched by time or wear, yet devoid of life. benches sat in perfect order, their varnished surfaces gleaming under the soft lights overhead. The faint hum of electricity buzzed steadily, though it did nothing to dispel the suffocating stillness. Ethan's boots clicked softly against the gleaming tiles. He paused near the ticket counter, staring at its vacant window. There was no sign of a clerk, no signs or papers, just an empty space, perfectly clean but unnervingly still.
Hello? Is there anybody here?
The sound echoed faintly, then disappeared into the silence. A strange pressure settled on his chest. The station felt alive somehow, not abandoned but waiting. The whistle came again, closer now, and the train emerged from the shadows. Its black frame gleamed under the station lights, sleek and unnaturally pristine. It moved soundlessly, coming to a stop with a soft hiss as steam curled from its brakes. The doors slid open, and a man stepped out. The conductor was tall and gaunt, his uniform immaculate but unnervingly old-fashioned. His pale face looked waxen, almost unreal, his sunken eyes glinting faintly like dying embers. Slowly, he pulled a golden pocket watch from his coat, studying it for a moment before sliding it back inside.
Mr. Rourke?
He said, his voice smooth yet hollow, like the distant roll of thunder. Ethan stiffened.
Yes, I am Ethan Rourke. Excuse me, but how do you know my name?
The conductor smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes.
Names linger, as do the souls they belong to.
Ethan glanced at the empty platform, then back at the man.
What is this? Where's this train going?
The midnight train travels many tracks. It goes where it's needed and waits for no one.
Ethan's gut churned.
What is this? Why are you looking for me?
Because it's time.
The conductor said simply. Ethan's heart pounded.
No, thank you. I don't believe I need a ride. And this, to be honest, is very strange.
The conductor regarded him silently, his hollow gaze sharp.
The tracks grow colder, Mr. Rourke. You may not like where they lead if you stay behind.
The doors slid shut, and the train vanished into the darkness, leaving Ethan alone to ponder the events that had just taken place. He paced back and forth, trying to make sense of it all. But there was something about it that just didn't sit right with him. Suddenly, he heard a familiar sound. The second train arrived as silently as the first. The conductor stepped out again, his skeletal frame casting long shadows across the platform.
Mr. Rourke, I see you're still here. Are you sure you wouldn't like to board the train?
Ethan's heart pounded. How was the same man standing in front of him? He had just seen him leave what seemed like moments earlier. It was impossible. Yet here he stood in front of him.
What kind of trick are you pulling? How did you do that? How did you just leave and now you're right back here? And why are you wanting me to get on that damn train so bad? No, I'm fine just where I am. As a matter of fact, I am done playing your games. I'm going home. A good night's rest. That's what I need.
If that is your answer, Mr. Rourke, but I wouldn't try leaving just yet if I were you. You might find the results unpleasant.
What the hell does that mean?
Ethan said, turning to see the man boarding the train and it taking off before he could get an answer. Ethan looked as the train vanished again into the night. As soon as it was out of sight, he gathered his thoughts and stepped off of the platform, making his way through the damp, tall grass towards his flat. Suddenly, he felt his head spin and his vision began to blur. Before he could balance himself, he fell to the ground. When he awoke, he was back in the train station. He looked around him and realized he was back. He jumped out of his seat and ran towards the door. Just as he reached it, he heard the train rolling back into the station. It was the exact same train as the times before. The same gaunt and ghostly man stepped out onto the platform, checking his pocket watch, and approaching Ethan, who stood frozen by fear. The conductor tilted his head, his expression unreadable.
Class call, Mr. Rourke. I really do wish you'd board.
I'm not getting on that train.
Ethan said as he ran past the man and towards the way he had came. As he rounded the corner, he was stopped in his tracks by a commotion. Red and blue lights and sirens filled the night air, and Ethan couldn't help but be drawn closer. His heart thundered as he approached the scene. Paramedics and police surrounded a crumpled figure near the rails. Ethan froze as he saw his own body, pale and lifeless, lying motionless under the harsh lights. A paramedic shook their head solemnly.
Call it. Time of death, 12:03.
Ethan staggered back, his knees threatening to buckle. His breath came in ragged gasps, panic clawing at his chest. He turned wildly, and then he saw him. The conductor stood by the tracks, silent and still. His gaze met Ethan's with an eerie calm. Ethan ran to him, desperation in his voice.
Why is this happening?
The train, it would have taken you back where you belong, but you refused. The tracks only lead forward now, I'm afraid.
Tears burned in Ethan's eyes.
Is there another way? I'm not done. I have so much left to do.
A faint whistle echoed in the distance. Ethan turned to see a new train approaching, its windows glowing with an unnatural light. The conductor tipped his hat.
Safe travels, Mr. Rourke.
The train stopped, its doors sliding open. This time, Ethan stepped forward, the weight of finality pressing down on him as he approached his final destination. Well, dear readers, I hope you enjoyed tonight's tale, The Midnight Train, written by Ella Noire. Until next time, when the clock strikes 12 and the shadows deepen, remember this: hesitation can cost more than time, and the choices we avoid may become the ones that define us. Until we meet again in the midnight hour, tread carefully and mind the tracks.